Okay, so now I'd like to demonstrate the Foundation Directory Online database. What I'll be demonstrating here is the professional level of the database, which is the top level. This is the level that all of our cooperating collections have. There are actually 5 different levels that people can subscribe to if they wish to do so, but each of our libraries and our cooperating collections have access again to the professional level of the database, which is the top level. Within the top level, you can search the grantmaker file. You can search this by grantmaker name, grantmaker location, field of interest, which would be the subject area, type of support, which would be the kind of funding you might be looking for, things like seed money, capital campaigns, donated equipment. It's related to the kind of funding and not the subject area. You can also search by geographic focus. Geographic focus is going to tell you where a foundation gives to, as opposed to where they're located. So you can certainly use the grantmaker location fields if you wish to know where one is located, but more often than not, people are interested in where the foundation gives to. And for that, you can go into geographic focus, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. Trustees, officers, and donors, this is where you can search the people associated with that organization. Type of grantmaker, where you can limit your search, say, to just corporate grantmakers if you wish to do so. And then there are some range searches for total giving, total assets, and establishment year. And then finally, there's a keyword search, which I'll talk about as well, and what makes that unique. First of all, though, I want to point out the geographic focus field. Geographic focus, as I mentioned, is going to tell you where a foundation gives to, as opposed to where they're located. If you click on where it says View Index, and most of these fields have an index associated with them, and it's really important to use an index where one is provided because it is looking for one of these terms. But if we click on the index for geographic focus, you'll notice that it's going to give you really a state-by-state breakdown. So each of the 50 states located in the United States. There really aren't countries listed here. So the term you would want to use for your searches would be the term international, which is going to search foundations that give internationally. So it's essentially the equivalent, the equivalent to the print version of the international directory that I referenced a few minutes ago. Countries or regions, that is going to come from the Fields of Interest Index. So you'll open up the Fields of Interest Index and then select T for Thailand, for instance, and then select that term from the index there. There are different ways to search this. You can search broader, you can search more specifically. In some instances, and you'll be probably doing multiple searches using different combinations to really get at what you're looking for. But this certainly is a good start for you. There is also a box down here that you can use to exclude grantmakers not accepting applications. There are some foundations, we call operating foundations, for instance, which essentially exist to fund their own programs. They're not making grants to outside organizations, and you can eliminate those from your search by selecting that box. The other thing I want to point out very quickly here is the keyword search field. And the keyword search field is not tied to an index the way the other fields are. So where you're using, say, the fields of interest field or the types of support field, again, it's very important that you use the indexed terms because it's looking for one of those terms. But say you go through the field of interest index and you're still not quite finding what you're looking for, you can go into the keyword search field, and here you can enter in your own terminology, and it's going to search the entire database for the term or terms that you've entered in. So it provides you with a way around having to know what the terms are in the index. But then once you find a record that seems to match closely what you're looking for, I would encourage you to look at the field of interest term that is being used, and then go back and redo the search using that term. It's going to provide you with a little bit more focused of a search, and it will get you better results, I think. But when you're done, you can click on search and look at the foundations that come up here. You can reorganize these very easily by clicking on, say in this case, total assets, and it'll resort the results for you. And you can click on any one of these to look at what a typical record looks like. It's going to give you the at-a-glance information, basic information, contact information, basic financial information, links off to their tax returns, and so on. Down below, you'll find other pieces of information, including limitations, their fields of interest, their geographic focus, application procedures, officers and directors, financial data, and so on. Each of these records, by the way, can be emailed to yourself or to a colleague. There's a little email link here on the right-hand side, as well as a print save link. Now, email, you'll only be able to email one record at a time. It won't let you email batches of records, but just one record at a time. And then printing, you can just print right out from your desk terminal, or you can save it to a flash drive or something of that nature. When you do that, when you email or save a record, I just want to point out you're only getting information below where it says profile here. There's, however, a lot more information behind these tabs located at the top of the record here. And these are things that you will also want to explore because this is going to have additional information about this funder you've identified. So for instance, the Search Grants tab. This is going to be a way for you to search a subset of that larger grants file. Remember that 1.2 million grant records. But this is just a subset of that. These are just those grants given, in this case, by the Bristol-Myers Squibb Foundation. Map grants will let you look at where their giving goes geographically, and we can select World Map here to look at where their giving goes internationally. And here we have Thailand, and we can drill down ultimately to get to the grant record. And so this is what a typical grant record will look like, telling you who gave the grant, in this case, again, Bristol-Myers Squibb Foundation, who received it, in this case, the Population and Community Development Association located in Bangkok. It was a grant given in 2004 in the amount of $89,000 for programs to prevent and treat AIDS, HIV in Bangkok. So it's a roundabout way again to get some of this same information. Chart grants, similar, except this is going to give you a visual representation of where the grants are going by subject area. So here we have a bar for education, one for health organizations, one for health, and so on. And you can just click on these to drill down until ultimately you will be getting to the grant records themselves. And then again, it's going to tell you who gave the grant. In this case, we know that's the Bristol-Myers Squibb Foundation, but who received it, how much it was for, what it was for, and then you can read more about that, find out more about that grant giving. The next two tabs, News and Publications. These two tabs are actually going to pull from sections of our website, foundationcenter.org. You could go to our website and search our Philanthropy News Digest for news items about Bristol-Myers Squibb Foundation, but this is sort of a one-stop shop concept. You can click on this button and it's going to pull all news items related to that foundation and bring it up to your screen very easily. Similarly, the Publications tab is going to pull from a section of our website called Hub. And again, while you can go to our website and search this without having to go through the database, it's again that one-stop shop concept. So these are foundation-sponsored publications that you can search by clicking on that tab. Then we have the People tab, where you can look at the people associated with that organization. The Company tab is going to open up the corporate record from the company's file of the database, and then also a 990 file, which is going to link off to their most recent tax return. So that's what a typical grant maker record looks like. Now what I'd like to do is go into the grants side of the database, and this is a way, again, to search about 1.2 million grant records, records of grants already given out. And here you can search by grant maker name, if you know the name of the organization, or grant maker state, recipient name, a variety of ways to search by recipient location, including country. And so we can go into the index, for instance, and scroll down again to the T's, and select Thailand here. Then we can also search by recipient type, subject area, type of support, year authorized, or grant amount. I'm just going to leave this as Thailand and see what we have here. If we click on search, there are 242 records in the database of grants given to Thailand. Now, I do want to point out this is not every grant ever given to the country. These are just a selected list of grants to give you sort of a feel or a flavor of the types of things that are typically given. So this is by no means every grant ever given out to the country of Thailand. But if we click on any one of these, it's going to open up the grant record. It's going to tell us who gave the grant, who received it, how much it was for, again, what it was for, and then up in the upper left-hand corner there's going to be a grant maker link. And if you click on that, it's going to jump you from the grants side of the database over to the grant maker side of the database. And now you can read up about that foundation's contact information, looking at their application procedures, their limitations, their fiscal information, and so on. So really, again, a roundabout way to get to the same place, because you're ultimately going to end up at that grant maker record reading about the profile of that funder. But it does provide a little bit better subject access because it is based on an actual grant. It's a little bit more concrete.